Crypto markets are most certainly down, and uncertainty is most certainly at an all-time high. But when it comes to Cardano, one thing is true: the network is growing, and it's growing very strong. What is up, everyone? Welcome to Crypto Capital Venture. Thank you for coming by. Hit the subscribe and like on the way in. This is a Cardano video. I'm gonna start mixing it up a little bit. I'm definitely gonna do the charts. I'm gonna put that in the timestamps if you want to go right to the charts as we dig into that and talk about where we are, maybe even some of my ideas in terms of approach. But I wanna start by kind of just talking about the data in relation to the blockchain itself, right? So I tweeted earlier, Cardano total value locked hits an all-time high as it leads all of crypto in transaction volume. So two things happening here. Number one, the total value locked in Cardano right now, 165 million. You can see on the chart, it is at an all-time high. I'm going to continue tracking this because this is a perfect illustration of the growth of the network, and it's extremely exciting. And then the second piece to that data is this: Cardano on transaction volume, whether it's transaction volume for the last 24 hours or adjusted transaction volume for the last 24 hours. Cardano leading, right? 18 billion versus second place Bitcoin, 4 billion. And look at the fees, only $35,000 in fees, Bitcoin fees, 0.36 million. So we're going to continue watching it. This is fundamentally so important for the long-term growth of Cardano, and it does apply to price, but more from a lagging perspective, right? Price isn't going to immediately react to this. In the grand scheme of things, crypto's down. This is just how cycles operate. This is what it is. And unfortunately, there's just a lot of fear and uncertainty and a lot of crazy things happening right now in the world. We're not only obviously just in the United States, but in the world. I talked about in a Bitcoin video earlier, we covered the three main things going on: the war with Russia and Ukraine. We talked about the Fed increasing rates, and we talked about the executive order with Biden. Now, a lot of this is really, I think, in crypto markets priced in, and over the last weeks or months, it's been priced in across crypto markets. And I think when things just start turning around, even in the slightest, I think there's going to be a nice burst of momentum to the upside to, at the very least, test macro resistance areas. But I digress from that for a minute, and I want to dig even deeper into the on-chain metrics. So Subcritical tweeted this a little bit ago earlier: whales are buying, are you? And you can just see this. The balance held by addresses with 1 million to 10 million coins rose to a record 12 billion ADA last week, a 41% gain. Here's an article from CoinDesk discussing this. The balance is held by addresses with 1 to 10 million. There's a 41% gain since late January. Data provided by blockchain analytics firm Into the Block show. What I wanted to talk about, though, also is I wanted to bring this chart up. This is some different historical data in relation to retail, right? It's data in relation to the growth of retail, and the retail is in orange here on this chart. So historical concentration. What is this? This says the concentration group of indicators shows the allocation and activity of a crypto asset's circulating supply based on three groups: whales, investors, and retail. So retail in orange, and you can see this. Look at this. From price hitting, right, that all-time high in August, September area, from price hitting that and kind of just cruising down, look at retail. Look at the retail growth of this, right? And if we take this chart and we go right to beginning of January. So beginning of January, retail at 43 billion, just over 43 billion ADA. Now retail, as of today, it is 59 billion ADA retail. So not only do we see whales accumulating, and obviously it's illustrated in this article from CoinDesk, it's all over the place right now, but retail is also accumulating. And I think that's something to pay attention to as Cardano network grows. So this dip, it seems a lot of people taking advantage of thus far. And then we have this. This was interesting as well. I wanted to discuss addresses by time held. So price, again, you can see price in black here, kind of cruising down from that $3 all-time high. But then you see in green, they're called cruisers on this graph, which is cruisers are holders that are holding ADA 1 to 12 months, right? So they have a holding period of 1 to 12 months, and you can see that just growing. So we're seeing a lot of holders holding, whether it's 1 to 2 months. We have traders that are, you know, in orange here. They're kind of sideways, but even with an upward trajectory in orange, if you can see this chart, and then hodlers 1 year plus, kind of hard to see on this chart, but actually on the uptick right now as well. So that was interesting data I wanted to point out. And then lastly, total addresses, we're just cruising on up as price decreases. Yeah, you can see in green the number of total addresses for Cardano approaching 5 million addresses. The network is growing, everyone. It's exploding. If you're a long-term holder, if you're a macro investor, I think this data is so relevant to the play at hand, to the opportunity at hand. And I have to continue reminding myself of that because it's a re-implementation of my own plan in terms of Cardano and holding Cardano amidst even the dip, right? So let's talk about that. What's going on here? This is the weekly chart. We've hit the target of 80 cents. It's worth just noting once again, since Cardano's actually been consolidating and finding structure around that area, even amidst all the volatility happening right now, Cardano finding some structure here, which we'll zoom in on. So that's the first thing to note. We hit the 80 cent target to the downside that we've tracked, I think, for months on this channel, which is the ascending, broadening wedge. Now, coming out of that, if we go over here to the daily chart, what I really wanted to talk about in this video is, if something were to turn around, right, what's that thing that Cardano just has to do that it hasn't done in just this downtrend that it's been in? And it's this area right here that I have an arrow on. It's a box. I'm going to move it down now and extend it a little bit. But this box, the upper and lower trend line of this box, is very simple. It's the 50-day moving average in blue and the 20-day moving average in green. You can see last time we were tracking that box, there was exact resistance at the 20-day moving average. And right now, the 20-day moving average has moved down to around 91 cents. The 50-day moving average right around $1.04. That's the area that Cardano it has to get any type of even midterm bounce and reversal. Cardano, we want to see it get above these moving averages and hold support above them. And that is the key, because every time it has slightly gotten above, it hasn't held support, right? So it failed at the 20-day moving average support test. It failed at the 50 and 20-day moving average support test back here in January. It failed back here at the 20-day moving average support test. There's always that confirmation of support that we look for when we get the break to the upside. And we just haven't had that yet in months and months and months. Really, in 6 months, we have not had that. So that's what we'll be watching. That's what I'm watching. If Cardano can even make a move to the upside, if it happens, it's 12% to the 20-day moving average. It's 27% to the 50-day moving average. We would need to see markets truly turn around for that to happen. When talking about that, here's what I'm watching for. There is clear consolidation around this 80 cent range, which I've talked about, right? So here's Cardano testing that range right there, the target to the downside. Here it is again, just consolidating right now in the very short term at the 80 cent range. It's an area that we're looking for support, since it is a macro target back here on this weekly chart. This is the weekly, right? So we're looking for some type of support now at that area, that target area, if not a strong bounce to the upside. That is what we would like to see happen. And we have to continue monitoring what we're seeing here on the screen. So this is, when I look at this chart, my attention just goes to this box, the 80 cent to 50 cent range. The reason is because I've been talking about on this YouTube channel, the 80 cent range being that target, and then the 50 cent range being this target for Cardano on the weekly, once again, which is this, that we've also been talking about. So the symmetrical triangle, very messy looking on the weekly chart, but to the 50 cent range in play that we've talked about, also confluent with the 200-week moving average, that red line that you see here. All of that data from a price perspective really lines up with the case if Bitcoin were to drop to its own 200 moving average on the weekly. Cardano, just the 50 cent range, very much in play. So when I'm looking at the 6-hour chart, I'm just like, all right, what's the game plan? And obviously we can sit here all day and just, we want to see Cardano bounce to the upside. We can paint bullish scenarios. We get to support at 80 cents. It's a higher low area. And actually, it's actually a higher low at a Fibonacci right now as I do the video. The 6-hour candle just at the 786 around 79.80 cents. Right at this Fibonacci support channel. We can talk about maybe getting that bounce and the break to the upside. But for me, I just look at this chart and I'm just kind of like, all right, that would be nice if it happens. We can track it if it happens. We can enjoy it if it happens. But everything is so unknown right now. And this is what my Bitcoin video was on earlier. It was really about the unknown and the case that lies right in front of us for crypto to really capitulate, to tank. And so I'm anticipating that. And I just want to be ready for something like that because I've been saying for a while, 50 to 80 cents, if we're in the scenario, especially with all of these events priced in, starting to become very priced in, everybody aware of all of these events, if we get a capitulation scenario, I'm not too sure it's going to last very long before we get a bounce to the upside, right? So I want to be ready for that. I want to be ready to accumulate Cardano on the cheap if we fall below 80 cents. And I don't know what it looks like. I really don't. I'm very spontaneous. Like if I'm going to buy and if I happen to not be sleeping, because it happens a lot when I'm sleeping, then I'll make a decision on what I do. But this is really what I'm anticipating. We are all looking for a potential long-term, mid-term, even reversal for Cardano to start turning the ship around, or at least forming some, the next phase of bullish consolidation on the macro chart, meaning we had the swing high here. Well, where's the swing low going to be? Is it going to be 50 cents? Is it going to be right here? So from there, we can start really forming just the macro structure, right? And we start forming what's the next macro looking pattern, and we just don't know. We have to wait and we have to track Cardano through all of this. But my play is kind of like, all right, that next capitulation, if it happens, if there's a huge downtrend, now that things are people are very aware of what's going on with the war and with Fed rates. They're aware that it's happening, the rate hike. They're aware that the Biden administration is going to be doing an executive order. But the thing is now, what's the trigger where these little rays of sunshine start happening and markets start bouncing a little bit? And if there is that capitulation, I want to be ready for that before that bounce, because if the executive order isn't as bad as many people are thinking and anticipating, especially after downtrend for months, I think many people are just kind of, they're in a negative mindset. They think it's going to be really bad. If it's not, though, and I don't think it's going to be bad, right? The government's getting involved in crypto from a more strategic play, a strategic standpoint. I think it's important. It's good. It'll offer guidance and clarity in this space that we need. So it could really be helpful actually to these charts. So I want to anticipate that. At the end of the day, I kind of know that the 80 cent to 50 cent buy range, and maybe even lower than 50 cents, who knows if things get really bad, but this is my range, right? And it hasn't fallen. Cardano has not fallen in that capitulation area within this range anywhere, right? There has not been that just crazy mass sell-off within this range, really, for me to make any immediate accumulations that's worthwhile, right? So that's what I'm just anticipating to the downside. And yeah, just like you, everybody, I'm hoping for a bounce. It would be awesome to test the moving averages here on the daily, but time will tell, and we just have to be patient. We have to be patient for this chart to form some structure and to see if this 80 cent support area just holds right now. That's kind of what I'm watching. I don't want to do any short-term pattern technical analysis right now, just because I think things are way too volatile to do this. What I'd be watching for is 80 cents. Will it hold? And if we do get just a drop into this range, I just want to be ready for it. That's where my head's at right now, everybody. And then more importantly, zooming out on all that, we've got all this data that is extremely, extremely important, I think, for the long-term outlook for Cardano. And in my view, it's looking very bullish. Everybody, I didn't mention it earlier on, but this video is not financial advice. It's not. This is me just tracking with you. That's all we can do is be patient. It's all we can do is be prepared. Nobody knows what's going to happen next, so be careful out there. I appreciate each and every one of you. I'll see you in the next video. God bless.